Hello, welcome to History Path. Serial killers lurking in the darkest corners of history have terrified the world with their brutal murders. Ed Gein. After the death of his mother, the only family he had left, Ed Gein became obsessed with anatomy, his singular, twisted goal to bring her back to life. Soon, he began raiding graveyards, stealing corpses, and experimenting on them. What fascinated him most? The female body. Realizing he couldn't revive his mother, Gein took a disturbing turn. He skinned the body of an older woman, roughly his mother's age, and wore the skin along with her old clothes. But this wasn't enough to satisfy Ed's growing obsession. He went from robbing graves to committing murder. As his gruesome skills advanced, Gein began crafting macabre artifacts, a belt made from nipples, cups fashioned from human skulls, and other nightmarish creations. Finally, the sheriff tracked him down. Inside Gein's home was a horrifying collection. Decayed body parts, necklaces made from lips, gloves crafted from human skin, and more. Despite the chilling discoveries, Gein denied being a necrophile or cannibal. According to him, the murders were just a way to decorate his home. This is the shocking true story of Ed Gein, the man who blurred the line between obsession and madness. Albert Fish. Albert Fish is thought to have committed more than 100 murders in total. Fish, who was also a cannibal, eating human flesh, is the oldest serial killer. After being sexually abused by his mother and settling in a children's home, our murderer, whose mental structure was seriously damaged, began to show a pure inclination towards religion. He committed his first murder in 1910. He did not kill without choosing young and defenseless children as victims and torturing, raping, and eating their flesh. He enjoyed inflicting pain and thought that he did these things for the sake of religion. He also tortured himself. He believed that he was cleansing himself from his sins by drinking his own urine and beating himself with a nailed stick. In 1928, Fish became close to the Budd family, gained their trust, and kidnapped their little girl Grace Budd and took her to an empty house under the pretext of taking her to his niece's birthday party. Fish, who dismembered Grace's body, brought some of the pieces to the boarding house where he was staying and masturbated by cooking and eating these pieces for 9 days without leaving. Fish, who then started to escape, fell into the hands of police officer William King, who made his capture a personal matter due to his own mistake in 1934. He was caught because he sent letters to the Budd family telling them how he killed and ate their daughter. At the end of his trial in 1935, he was found insane, but was sentenced to death by electric chair. When he heard the verdict, he declared, "I will be happy to taste this great pleasure that I have never tasted." Albert Fish's death sentence was carried out in the electric chair at Sing Sing prison on January 16, 1936. Elizabeth Bathory referred to herself as the Bloody Countess. After her husband died, she began to dabble in witchcraft. It is also said that she participated in rituals where horses and similar animals were sacrificed. When she was 40 years old, the Bloody Countess, who was worried that she would grow old and lose her beauty, slapped a young servant girl so hard that a drop of blood fell from her face and spilled onto the Countess's hands. The Countess thought that she had taken the girl's youth and beauty with this blood and ordered her servant to fill a tub with all the girl's blood and take a blood bath. Afterwards, the Countess, who had gone astray, kidnapped 612 virgin girls and tortured these girls in a cage hanging from above. She took a shower with the blood flowing from the cage. It was understood that Bathory was locked up in a cell and was found dead in her cell in 1614. She is a schizophrenic patient. She is also one of the biggest inspirations for Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, after Vlad III. There is also a rumor that Madame Bathory, also known as the Bloody Countess, lived when she was a child. Bathory lives in her uncle's house without a mother or father. Bathory has a personality disorder when she was a child. The reason for this is that her uncle and aunt are people who are fond of torture, and in front of the little girl, Bathory, they cut a horse in half to torture a man and put that man inside and sewed this horse back together in front of Bathory. And from that day on, Bathory has some practices that are far from the games played by normal children who are fond of torture, and that everyone is afraid to do. That's why Madame Bathory thinks that the blood splashed on her spiritually makes her beautiful, because of a personality disorder she has from childhood. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was not only a serial killer, but also known as a necrophile and cannibal. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 young men, dismembering his victims and eating parts of them. His horrifying acts made Dahmer one of the most terrifying figures of all time. Aileen Wuornos. Let's take a look at one of history's most infamous female serial killers, Aileen Wuornos. Between 1989 and 1990, Wuornos killed 7 men by shooting them in their vehicles after stopping them on the highway. Her story is a tragic example of how a life marred by poverty and hardship can spiral into violence. The murders she committed cemented her legacy as a ruthless figure in history. Pedro Lopez Monsalve, the serial killer known as the Monster of the Andes, raped and killed 300 children around South America, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador. Lopez served a maximum of 1 month in prison for each of the young girls he killed and raped in these 3 countries. The graves of the 53 children he killed were found by police in 1980. In an interview in January 1999, he described himself as the man of the century and said he should be released for good behavior. Holmes. Dr. Holmes, known as the first recorded American serial killer, was born in 1861. During the Chicago World's Fair, he opened a hotel in Chicago that he specially designed to commit the murders he imagined. Although he confessed to 27 murders, 4 of which were confirmed, the number of people he killed is around 200. He took an unknown number of his victims from the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, which was a few kilometers away from the World's Fair Hotel. William Bonin. William Bonin, also known as the Freeway Killer, January 8, 1947, February 23, 1996, was a truck driver and serial killer. He raped and killed his male victims for pleasure. In his last 5 months, he was aided by the impressionable Vernon Butts,